We live in a world that never stops offering more. More to buy, more to scroll, more to numb, and more to escape. Until the wanting becomes normal and stopping feels impossible.
And somehow, the harder we chase it, the more burnt out, anxious, addicted and disconnected we become.
This is More, a podcast hosted by people with lived experience of addiction, mental health issues, trauma, and neurodiversity, where the pursuit of more led us to rock bottom and has since led us to finding alternative ways to live.
Each week we have raw, honest conversations with each other and our guests, grounded in lived experience, about what the chase takes from us and what's possible when you stop running.
Through these conversations, we hear a diverse collection of stories and experiences from those who have found an alternative way to exist in the world.
These conversations are recorded in a single take, with no editing, so what you hear is real and unfiltered. Some names and places may be changed in order to protect those sharing their stories.
Welcome to More. Hello, welcome to More. My name's Toby.
And my name's Rudy.
Hi, Rudy. Caution, this episode may contain subjects that some may find triggering. Listener discretion is advised. This is episode 1, day 1, the beginning of the rest of our lives. I just want to take a minute, actually, and just, be in the present. Enjoy this. And if future me or us is listening back, remember to stay present. I love you, and keep doing the next right thing.
Yeah, the next best decision.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think it'd be quite nice to have a little bit of a sort of introduction on the both of us, bit of background. I think further down the line we should do sort of like a full episode on ourselves.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think for now, just a quick introduction of, who we are, why and what, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. So why don't you kick us off, mate? Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, I think... So I was born and raised in the Northeast, in a small part of the Northeast, working class background, and I left home. I lived a chaotic early stage in my life. I left home and moved down south, and the same chaos just followed me around. And I guess over the last 2 years I've came into recovery, and now it's allowed me to look back and clearly see all of the patterns and how they're all connected, and the journey that has brought me to today.
Yeah,
to sitting
right
here now in this podcast.
I suppose it's important to mention that we obviously met each other through a 12-step program.
Yeah.
That we, is local to us, and that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah.
How did you come to be in a 12-step?
I was in treatment in 2024. I feel like time just flies by. 2024, after having mental health issues primarily, and it was there in treatment that I had to surrender to my addictions, and that was how I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous. And my first meeting was in Chiang Mai in Thailand. Reluctantly only went along because it was a chance to get out of the facility that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it was good coffee. But then once I got there and I heard an American guy share, and that's kind of when it hit home, and I realized that that was where I needed to be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then I think we met. I came back in October, and that was one of your first meetings.
Yeah, that's right. You were at my first meeting, weren't you? Yeah, at our local.
Yeah, and it was one of my first meetings coming home as well.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
because when did you come? It was October. Was it October?
November.
Yeah, yeah. So I got back. I got back last week of October.
Oh, sound. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know that. That's cool.
yeah. So funny
Yeah,
old.
nice. Well, so then since you came back into the UK, where explain to me and to people listening, how did you go from sort of like a 12-step program, pretty straightforward, I'll call them, to figuring out that, maybe there's more underneath the surface than just being an addict?
Yeah. So I think for me, this has been a long journey for pretty much a whole decade. And, I've been doing therapy for a decade and trying different things. And it was always with like an aim of, I can see now, instead of just accepting who I am, it was always like, I need to fix this. This is wrong. I need to know what this is to try and fix this. And constantly going round in circles, and yes, it's been a long decade, and there's been ups and downs, lots of downs. And I think I've been quite lucky that I had a great therapist who introduced me into, as we've spoke about, like the Gabor matters way of looking at
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and just an alternative way from it just being, you know, you're depressed, take some medication. You're an addict, you have a disease of addiction. It's more how it's all related, and it's a big web. And I don't quite uh, it's not that I disagree with certain things. I can just see now that I understand more, is that it's more complex than,
yeah, 100%.
you know
Yeah,
and I guess, like, from your experience, how have you found that?
yeah. The same, Yeah, I mean, we'll get into my stuff in a bit, I suppose, but yeah, that addiction is something that I suffer with without a shadow of a doubt. A 12-step program is something that I need to do and have in my life. But yeah, the more personal work I've done, the more therapy, the more I've let my awareness expand into other sort of disciplines, maybe, the more I've realized that maybe addiction is a symptom of more, and the Gabumate sort of thinking, or those types of people. A lot of it begins with trauma, and I certainly have experienced trauma, and so from my experience, I've sort of experienced in hindsight, it's I have to keep reminding myself, in hindsight, I've never known this all along, but in hindsight, looking back, I can kind of see the patterns forming now from traumas, rather than the addictions causing the traumas and then feeding the addiction. So, you know, along that keel, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's it, isn't it? Understanding, like, as I said, I went to treatment, and y- the awareness, it kind of gives you a foundation. It's like an education into a life in recovery, and why those things have, well, for me it was, is why those things happened, and how they're related, and how to accept it and let go of things. And I think, those, for me, it's all of those things, like the addictions, the ADHD, the other stuff, all just feels like it was coping mechanisms for those early traumas. And the way your brain's wired from such an early thing has become, something that I've looked at a lot, because it just makes so much sense, trying to like those patterns that you have ingrained from such an early age, trying to change those. It's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And it's been a funny old journey.
But looking back now, even just 12 months, I bet, the change you can see is incredible.
Yeah. And I think, I've had good runs in the past, but I've always was, drinking and using. This is the only time where I've, had a bit of stability where I'm not doing that this time.
Yeah.
It's been a
Everything.
completely different experience. And so it's been interesting since coming back. And I think, everyone's experience is different. I think for me, and the way that my brain works, is that, in times of crisis, those weekly therapy sessions or the fortnightly, whatever sessions you're having, psychiatrist, EMDR, whatever it is, they're not enough for anything to stick for me. So it took me to going into that treatment centre for 3.5 months to get things to stick enough that I was going to make a lasting change when I left. And, hopefully, so far so good.
Yeah.
You never know what's around the corner, but
Yeah.
and I guess that's part of the podcast, isn't it? Is sharing the journeys that we've been on, in hope that people can resonate and, find hope. And we've been on similar journeys, and
Yeah, mate.
I guess it's that hope and educating people and things that it's there's not a lot out. There is a lot out there, but there's a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Get some real talk on the go.
yeah.
So you like I said, we'll go over our past and how, war stories and whatever, and how we got to where we got to in individual episodes, because I know both yours and mine stories are complex ones. But yeah, so you got to treatment, you came out, I met you at, I won't say where, NA. Then, so that was a 1.5 years ago, thereabouts. What does a day for you look like now?
So a day for me right now is, I stick to a recovery plan that I agreed when I was in treatment, and I try to expand it as and when I feel ready. I get up, I journal, I pray, I read some daily readings and self-affirmations, and then, I try to exercise every day, whether that's going for a walk, going to the gym, playing paddle when we can.
Yeah.
And then, I try to remain present. I guess for me, I've removed all of the social media platforms a long time ago, really. Well, I still had Twitter before treatment. I was still dabbling
Tweeting.
with crypto in the crypto game, and I've removed those. I don't have any noise. I don't have any news apps.
So you've gone full monk.
Apart from LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I think LinkedIn's the most toxic social media platform on there.
So I hear.
Yeah. And that's it. I'm in a bit of a transformational phase, I would say, of doing new things before, ultimately having to go back to working the way that I was at some point. But for now, it's at a much different pace, and it's given me the space for these new routines and habits, and there's to come to acceptance with certain things in my life and being able to move forwards with them.
Yeah, nice, mate. I consider to have known you, long enough to have an opinion on your life. Oh yeah, but I consider you someone who's, and from hearing that, I'm sure you'll agree that very devoted to your recovery, very devoted to resetting your patterns and your mindset. Someone who's very devoted to finding another way, and I think that's a really, really good and really important thing. And that's, they say in the rooms, don't they, the 12-step program, stick with the winners.
Yeah.
And I consider you to be that, mate, because
Thanks, mate.
you have a good, well, don't prove me wrong. You've got a good message, and, you walk the walk, whereas some people might talk the talk, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's great, mate. So we've got you from the northeast, now living somewhere in the south of the UK. Presumably you don't have any family around.
No family. I've got a cousin not far, but other than that, my family are dotted around. Few family still in the northeast, but mostly around the UK and the world. I have my son here where I am, which is why I am where I am.
Yeah, nice.
And then I guess, the people I've met in the fellowship have become, like a family.
Yeah, right.
As, before coming into recovery, I could have went through my whole phone book and there wasn't one sober or clean person in there. So
Yep.
it's been a big shift, and yeah, I think, having my son close by has been a big, part of why, I guess it's the reason why I've committed to changing this and to digging deep into the internal stuff to try and understand myself the best I can, I guess, so that I can show up in the world the best version of myself that I can.
Yeah. Kids are, my kids are my anchor,
Yeah.
Without them, rock bottom would have been a lot harder to get back up from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, feels funny saying it on a podcast, but I think, if my son wasn't, if I didn't have my son, then, I probably wouldn't be here doing this podcast now.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty crazy, isn't it?
Sobering thought.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So, what do you want to give a little overview and a background on yourself as well? Just a little
Yeah.
taster
Go
into
on
the
then.
first episode.
A little teaser. My name's Toby. I'm obviously not called Toby Lerone. That's just one of my favourite jokes from childhood. I'm from sort of the Mid Wales, Shropshire border area. I am the spawn of hippies, I think is the word. A sort of like proper sort of old school hippies. I think when my mum found out she was pregnant with me, she lived in a bus, like sort of hippie commune styley. Quite a few of them in a bus on top of a Welsh mountain. So yeah, I'm from there. I've had a very, what most people tell me is interesting life. I've been all over the world, really. I was in the military for an amount of time, and I now reside somewhere in the south of the UK as well. I came into recovery, or let's say, I hit rock bottom in well, so in it was quite a long rock bottom for me, actually. I came into recovery the 1st of November 24, but my rock bottom was, immediately leading up to that. But it had been a pretty traumatic sort of 7 years.
Gradual.
Yeah,
decline.
demise. I've, my traumas and whatever started young anyway, but the the stitching started coming undone. Let's say over there. So I came into recovery the 1st of November 24. Since then, Jesus, I mean, everything's changed. Everything's had to change. I say now, my name's Toby and I'm an addict, but I am an addict of more, and that's kind of where we sort of started with the concept of this podcast a bit, really, is, and where I got my first grasps of there must be more to this was because, the anonymous programs, like NA, AA, the 12-step programs, I apply to all of them.
Mm. Yeah.
If it's got anonymous after it, there's a seat at the table for me. And since coming into recovery, I've been to multiple A's, pretty much all the ones we have around here. And, I apply for all of them without a shadow of a doubt. And that sort of, along with, the help from my amazing sponsor, brought me to the realization that I'm an addict of more. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's not just substances, it's behaviors and people, places, things, as they say in the rooms, but anything or everything. So looking back at my sort of past with hindsight, I can see how I fitted into all of those, and the reoccurring thing is, and what I've become to understand is using, as we call it, using, but not just using drugs, using people to get places ahead, using, food, sex, pornography, and no matter what it is, if it changes the way I feel, I very quickly get addicted to it. And then going on from that, I was kind of a bit like, well, why? What?
Yeah. And I think, like, since coming into recovery and knowing what you know now, how does it feel, like, compared to when you were in that chaos and you only know what you only know?
Yeah, man.
And it just feels like that information.
I've, it's incredible that I couldn't see that I was an addict. It is baffling. It's absolutely baffling. If I knew then what I know now, and like, you see people now and you think, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
But you can't give people realization and stuff like that. So the more thing led me to kind of thinking, well, what is more? And I've been diagnosed with autism. That's like the posh version of autism.
I must have the shitty version.
Yeah, mate. So I'm prone to addictive behaviors because of that, obsession, compulsion, so I've done, loads of therapy with neurodivergent specialists, blah, blah, blah. But then, I discovered this whole thing that I didn't really know much about, apart from using it in slang, is dopamine.
Yeah.
And then the molecule of more, it is that, that is what you're actually addicted to, or what I'm actually addicted to. It's I know I'm not addicted to sex because, if I was a sex addict, I could just marry another sex addict, and then the world would be perfect. I could just, but it doesn't work like that, because I just, as soon as I got into a relationship, I'd be done with them.
Yeah.
Because it's the hunting, the chasing, the
Yeah.
thing, and it's the same with porn. It's the same with drink. It's the same with drugs. It's the same with food. I always feel the guilt afterwards when the
Yeah.
dopamine wears off.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of as simple as that. I have been addicted to substances, like you're currently how many days into not vaping?
2.
Yeah. I gave up smoking not that long ago, and I've smoked since I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
That's hard, man. That's a substance,
Yeah.
and a serious one, really, because it makes me feel like shit.
Yeah.
I honestly does. If the first fag in the morning makes me feel like crap,
Yeah.
but I still do it. But yeah, that's an addictive substance. And as soon as I got my head around the whole addiction patterns and, stuff, working the steps and coming to understand how that works, I was like, well, that needs to go as well.
Yeah.
And it's doable when you understand,
Yeah. Well, I've been trying for however long, a long time to stop.
Yeah.
But this feels like, I don't know why I didn't just try and wean off before.
Yeah, mate.
I feel ready now.
Yeah. If anyone's listening and they're vaping, please stop.
Yeah.
It is, God, so
Wean yourself
addictive.
down. The juice, there's more to life than the juicy peach. Which was my flavour of choice.
Yeah.
And I guess just on you, I guess how's your life changed, I guess, since you come into recovery, and give us a little bit of insight into that as well.
Yeah, so the main changes for me have been, I want to say psychologically, I think that's the word. Like, so I've done a huge amount of work on myself and continue to do so. It's not, I'm by no means, there. So for me, it's changed more in, let's say, in like self-awareness, again, autism, I'm prone to being sort of, one-track mind, very limited empathy, very small feelings
Yeah.
range.
And I guess that's why we can relate. I have that as well.
Yeah, totally. So the big ones that have come up for me, having the awareness of that. So, I can be conscious when I'm sort of in a relationship, a friendship, even with at work, I can be empathetic. I can take a pause now. Does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? Does it need to be said now? Stuff like that. A lot around my sort of home setting, my relationships, like with my children and the mother of my children. I'm a lot more present, definitely. I don't think I was really present, there. And if you're listening to this, you'll know what I mean. I was there, but I wasn't there. This weird grey ground where, like, you're kind of just going through the motions, but outwardly looking all right, inwardly just glossing over everything.
But and I think that's part of the podcast, really, isn't it? The whole world is doing that. Like
Yeah,
the consumption
yeah,
more. We're being fed more.
yeah,
People are more than happy to scroll Instagram for
yeah,
3 or 4 hours
yeah.
rather than go and do some exercise. And
Don't look inwards, whatever
yeah,
you do. I mean,
yeah,
you only have to look at adverts, man. So I don't have TV. Yeah,
yeah,
I've just got like, don't know what you call it, smart TV in it. So like,
mm,
I don't know if we're allowed to say stuff like this. Who knows? Netflix and stuff like that. I don't have thing. And then I went to someone's house. Can't remember when it was, and they had like normal TV on, and I'd forgotten about adverts. Because you have them on YouTube or whatever, don't you? But you just ignore them.
yeah,
And who is buying things off these adverts to make them still go? Anyway, I
yeah.
digress.
I mean, those ones on YouTube, those dehumidifier bags that you put in the microwave. Those are the kind that I get on there, these gadgets.
It's you. It's you. You're the bloke making these adverts exist. So yeah, you only have to like, and it was really painful. And I remember like sitting there watching the TV and the advert come on, and it was literally like the first. So I'll do it. I'll do an impression of it. So it's like 4 adverts back to back. Yeah. So it's like first one was like, dun 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 dun, you're fat. Buy this thing. Look at this glamorous ballerina dancing around on the stage. Buy our diet pill, and you can be thin and gorgeous. And I was like, oh, that was a bit on the button. And then the next one was like, we've brought out a new car. It's exactly the same as the other car, but it's got like, some kind of useless added something or other that you don't need, but you need to get it now. If you buy it now, you get like an extra 6% off. And I was like, wow. And then I can't remember what but it was so in my face. I was like,
Yeah.
and they're relentless. They're like loud, they're bright, they're beautiful people. They're the next new thing, which is exactly the same. It's just more. It's
Yeah.
like consume more, buy more, drink more,
Go
eat
on
more,
holiday more.
go out, and then you'll feel. Oh, do you feel like shit? What you need to do is spend some money. That'll make you feel better, and go somewhere else. That'll make you feel better.
R-
It,
Rather than just disconnecting from it all
yeah,
and
mate.
understanding.
And that's another massive thing so like yourself, when I came into recovery, I didn't go into treatment. I took myself out of society effectively. I just disconnected from everyone. I was so lost. I was, I wasn't me. I mean, for a long time, I was kind of like just in the background, kind of watching my life through, you know, through these big eye-shaped holes in the distance. And I got rid of all social media, deleted them all, like permanent delete, not like logged out, whatever. Got rid of them all. Got rid of my phone, bought a proper old school, like drug
Burner.
dealer phone. Yeah, yeah, burner phone. Dropped all my clients, who I was people pleasing and thinking for, and just stopped everything. And that the huge part was the withdrawals from my phone were, if not worse, but the same as they were for
Yeah.
drugs.
But and I think that even not having no news, no YouTube, no social media,
Yeah,
nothing on my phone, the amount of times that I pick it up and just check the
yeah,
most ridiculous apps.
yeah,
And I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing, man?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh man, let's just have a quick look, man. Like,
yeah. I was talking about this with someone from the rooms the other day. I was like, so now I'm back on a smartphone now, because obviously,
yeah,
I did I think 9 months without a phone,
yeah,
and what I got from that was, ironically, my phone's ringing now, was amazing. And then but it does become really hard to do things like, because then you got to buy a sat nav.
Yeah.
And all these things. So I've now gone back to a smartphone, but I don't have any of those apps or whatever. But I still, even though after having that break and not having things, so nearly a year and a half, still pick up my phone, unlock it, scroll to the second page of apps,
Yeah.
third page of apps, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Mate, I will
There's nothing, and I'm like, I'm looking for something
to
to click on,
distract. Yeah.
and there's nothing there, and then I catch myself, and I'm like, oh, that's not good, mate. Yeah, fucking put it down.
I do it, mate. I'll go on my smartwatch app, check my heart rate. When I
Yeah,
can see it on the screen on my watch that's on my wrist anyway,
yeah.
then I'll scroll it into my workout app and check my progress, count how many times I've been, and then you're just clicking through check on. I barely go to any gigs anymore, but I'll always check on the Twickets app and see what last minute gig tickets are for sale in Bristol, but never go. It's just like nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. And that's terrifying. I personally, I think phones, and we don't need to get into the realms of conspiracy theories or anything like that. But I think phones are designed not deliberately, but just because of circumvention or whatever, that's what people want more of, and we put more of it on there. Are now designed as, a drug.
Yeah,
It's a fucking drug.
to distract you, I think.
Yeah. Don't look up.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Cool. Well, so let's talk more about the podcast.
yeah,
The plan is at the moment, like I say, this is episode 1. We are planning to have a long and fruitful career
yeah,
in podcasting,
yeah.
retire in like a year, being YouTube billionaires, etc., etc. No jokes. Essentially, in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think our broad brackets plan for the podcast is to do an episode a week.
Mm.
We want to get guests on, or we are getting guests on from across the entire spectrum of kind of the well-being community.
Yeah,
From addiction, which is where we kind of start and go onwards throughout all of the disciplines of that. I think it'd be good.
mental health issues. We both have a
Yeah,
history of that, and I guess we're bringing our lived experience to share. Hoping that the people who listen to the podcast can resonate and
yeah,
find hope.
yeah,
And I think, the addiction, the mental health, people who've suffered trauma comes in all shapes and
totally.
forms.
Yeah,
And then, the neurodiversities, which, is becoming ever present in
yeah,
daily
totally.
lives and, in the media. And I think, I guess it's kind of, shedding light on different people's experiences with it,
Yeah, mate.
mostly.
I think that'd be amazing, and it will be amazing. Yeah, I think between us, we've probably got the entire alphabet of sort of disorders and whatnot, haven't we?
Labels.
Yeah, but yeah, and I'm really interested to see how it all ties together. I
Yeah,
think there will be I'm really hoping there'll be some kind of common ground for everyone, no matter what sort of guest we have on. Let's call it a discipline,
yeah,
whether it's you know some kind of neurodiversity specialist, or EMDR therapist, or a recovering addict, or a recovery coach, etc., etc. I think they will find something in everything.
Yeah.
because I know I certainly have, and it's nice to give that awareness to people as well,
Yeah.
and meet some interesting characters along the way,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's some serious characters coming our way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's it, and I think just bringing that, like, the real stories, I guess having that more raw side. I think, from my experience of the wellness podcast world, there's a lot of celebrities
Yeah,
who are
yeah,
bringing a very different side of those making those changes. They're still as inspirational, transformational,
yeah,
but I think, just bringing things that are a little bit more real and that, everyone can connect with.
yeah, totally.
And I think that's what and hopefully have that connecting factor throughout,
Mm.
which, you know, is more,
More.
more.
The molecule of more. Yeah, absolutely, mate. So that's mega. Let's have a little recap just for ourselves' sake and so others know. How have we got to this exact spot since we were like, should we do a podcast?
Yeah,
What well, a bit of an idea of what it actually takes to get here, because when when we sort of first talked about it, I was like, yeah, just what by by like, when you're in school and you have those like little square microphone thing that you stick it on the table,
yeah, yeah,
and you just like all do some really shit music around it and just talk shit. And then, I think quite quickly we both realized that, we want this to make a difference
yeah,
and hit some people,
yeah,
and not be shit. So we, I'm sat here today in front of a purpose-built podcasting, mixing deck, really,
yeah,
where I've got like, pads with different musics on and intro, outro, and that sort of thing, and faders. Oh, and I can do stuff like this. Oh no, I better not hit that one. Say that for another episode. Which has made this uh, a real thing,
yeah,
and then we've gone down the route of like proper microphones because we want to sound clear, and don't want it to be an off-putting thing, if the message is good but it sounds crap.
yeah. And I think it's similar to, the commitment to recovery, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
doing it right and being committed to making a difference
yeah,
through this medium
yeah,
of, what is it? And is it entertainment, education?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
somewhere in the middle of that.
yeah,
Yeah, and then headphones, and like so we've got a legit setup
yeah,
basically, and then we sort of thought, oh well, let's just go for it, and then we realised we needed an intro song,
yeah,
so we reached out to a couple of people. Turns out that can take quite a while because it's not a small thing at all. You have to script and design, and
yeah,
and then we came across, well, you'd already used it,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I was introduced to AI music,
yeah,
which is mental. So our soundtrack is our own lyrics played through AI, where we input the style and the tempo and all that sort of thing that we wanted in the lyrics, and it coughed out a
yeah.
banger.
With much better vocals than me or you could
Yeah,
achieve.
I still do want to make a video where I'm pretending to sing it.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, you'll hear that at the end of this episode and the end of every episode anyway. It's the background music under what you hear at the beginning, and then the outro is the full song. So that was a whole evolution that we didn't see coming, but that was great fun. Since then, I've basically made an album, Toblerone. Look out for me on Suno. And then, so again, we were quite convinced, weren't we, that we wanted to ad-lib it.
Yeah, to keep it real. And I think we've had a good few sessions now sitting together and kind of getting to a point of where we want to kind of go.
Yeah.
And I guess, we are new to the podcasting world. So I think the more episodes we get in, hopefully the more you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, we can only get better. So then we thought, oh well, we better do sort of like an intro in words, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like this is
The
so.
hook.
Yeah, a hook. There you go. Because we've been doing proper research. You got a book and everything, didn't you?
Yeah.
Podcast book.
Yeah.
And then that. Christ, I mean, I thought that was going to be like a 5-minute thing. That turned into hours of work, which was good fun. And we had to use a dictionary a few times, get some big words in there. And then, an episode template. So, we don't forget to put in some key information. Yeah. And then sort of thought, well, we'll just go for it now. And that's where you find us sort of sat here today. But yeah, one big thing, if you didn't hear it in the beginning, is we will be doing all of our episodes one take. We don't do any editing. I thought that was really important. It's a bit different, and it's true. It's real life. It's raw. People pause. There's awkward silences, maybe sometimes, and that's okay. And we're not going to let it go on for minutes. But I think for me, the integrity that comes with that and it not being all chopped together and absolutely perfect, as a listener, makes you feel much more involved in a real life conversation.
Yeah. And I think you can feel the vulnerabilities of the people who are in discussion with that raw, that unedited version, where I think it's very easy to manipulate that when you're editing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we've got a couple of minutes left. I think it'd be nice to do a little bit of a recap on today, and then play these guys out with our tune.
Yeah. So I think it was just a brief intro of who we are, but there'll be more on that. We'll be sharing our stories as well as the guests we have on, using it and sharing our lived experience to, share that with the people who choose to listen to this podcast. I think the concept of more, which you discussed, I don't know if you want to say a bit more on that.
More. The hunt for more, I reckon. We essentially live in a world, like it says in our intro, where more is more than encouraged. It's almost shoved down our throats. And it'd be nice to be two people in that world trying to help people stay away from that, get away from it, learn another way, and reconnect with themselves in the real world here with us.
Yeah. And I think, that's everywhere you look, people's consumerism, we drove to consume more and more.
Yeah.
And
100%.
It's like just looking at ways we can be more present and in the now, because, ultimately that is all we have. As you see, can't control the past or predict the future.
Yeah.
You can't change the past or predict the future.
Yeah.
All we have is now. And I think a lot of the world are not living in the now.
No, totally. The past is regret. And, I see a lot of people living like that, and it's sad, but it's kind of today's culture, isn't it? Don't look up, just, just just strive for more stuff to make you feel better temporarily.
Yeah.
Which is, and the opposite of that is self-love,
Yeah.
self-care, boundaries, priorities.
Yeah. And it's like what they said I always remember from treatment is that they use the analogy of the aeroplane where, the oxygen mask has to go on you first.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of people don't choose to live.
Yeah, you can't help
I
anyone.
certainly didn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think that's been one of the big factors of, the big changes that I've seen in myself is that learning to love myself first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I hope that people who listen to this can find insight on how to start doing that.
Yeah.
Through different perspectives and different, as we said, the diverse guests that we're going to have on over time.
Yeah. And until you do learn to love yourselves, we'll love you.
Yeah. Oh, show.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. That was brilliant. I'm really excited for what's coming up. So, this is our song. I'm going to thank you for listening. Have a little listen along. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
More to take, more to chase, more to numb, more to escape. More screens, more pills, more noise, more thrill. We wanted more, we lost ourselves. We paid the cost, the deeper we delve. Always more. Until